Hey, if you've watched the first episode of Hard Knocks, like this video because we've got a full reaction show for you. And even if you didn't, the Dolphins play the Jets on Black Friday. So like this video and let's get it going. Another edition of Dolphins Today starts right now. Hey, welcome in. My name is Jake Riepma, and happy Thanksgiving to each and every one of you out there. Whether you subscribe to Dolphins Today or not, it's a day to give thanks. And boy, as Dolphins fans, do we have a lot to be thankful for, starting with that 7-3 record. And I, for one, cannot wait to watch the Dolphins go for victory number 8 against the New York Jets. But before we get there, lots to get into, starting with our Thanksgiving takeaways, of course, on this Thanksgiving holiday. And if you watch Hard Knocks, there's a lot to get to. Now, I gave everybody a couple of days. It premiered on Tuesday. So if you haven't watched it by now, you're not watching it. But we're going to break it down because I think there was a lot of compelling stuff from Hard Knocks in the first episode and just showing how likable this Miami Dolphins team is. And we'll wrap it up with some news and notes. So let's get it going, starting with what we're thankful for. There's a lot to be thankful for. Let me know in the comments what you're thankful for. Family, friends, football, fellowship, all that good stuff. I know there's a lot to be thankful for. And I'll tell you what I'm the most thankful for. It's Dolphins dubs, baby. The Dolphins have 7 of them on the season. And like I mentioned, I can't wait to watch them go for victory number 8 on Black Friday. I got my black shirt on for Black Friday as the Dolphins get set to travel to New York and take on the Jets. It'll be a good one. And stay tuned later in the show. I've got some nuggets for you to keep your eye on. But let's move on to Hard Knocks because as I mentioned, Hard Knocks earlier, I know some of the players weren't overly excited to have all the cameras following them around and all that good stuff. But I think Hard Knocks, among all the different behind-the-scenes stuff, it provides us that intimate access, that close relationship that we're looking for. And I, for one, really enjoyed Hard Knocks, and I've got some takeaways for you if you've watched the show. And you got to let me know as we're going along with this if you agree with some of my takeaways or, hey, Riepma, you are way off on this one. But let's start with my first takeaway, and that is Tyreek Hill and his now wife, congratulations to them, Kita Vaquero, were the stars of the show of that first episode. I enjoyed their interactions. I also enjoyed seeing how they are off the field, and I think Tyreek had some interesting comments about how he's matured and he's been able to transition into that different life of being a father, of being a husband, and that's just really important. He also mentioned how he's maturing and able to shut football off for a little bit when he goes home, which I think is also important. And not to mention, Kita Vaquero was actually hilarious in that scene. She's cheering on Tyreek Hill. He scores the touchdown and her hands go up. The nachos behind her falls all over it. That part was hilarious. And I thought this quote from Tyreek Hill when he was asked about that was pretty funny because he said, quote, "That nacho thing was definitely her fault." But credit to her. If that would have happened to me, I don't know if I would have handled it as well as she did. But if you haven't watched Hard Knocks yet, it's one of the most funniest parts of the episode. So credit to her. I enjoyed that part of it. Secondly, Mike McDaniel, unapologetically himself. He's so authentic. He's so true to himself. And I know we kind of, in this day and age, everybody's about their personal brand and this, that, and the other. But I found the way he conducted himself to be so refreshing, so authentic, so genuine, and it just made me want to run through a brick wall for that coach. And it's not like you see a lot of times, especially in the National Football League, and there was some of the rah, but with Mike McDaniel, it's just so unique. It's so genuinely refreshing the way he conducts himself, and I think the players play for him. And as this Hard Knocks season, in-season edition goes on, I think we'll see more and more about how Mike McDaniel is uniquely qualified to lead this Miami Dolphins team. Take a look at this from Dolphins insider Marcel Louis Jacques talking about Mike McDaniel, and he missed the debut of the Hard Knocks episode. He said he fell asleep at 8:30 before the episode even aired. So, Coach, if you haven't seen it yet, I hope you'll take a little bit of time to watch that Hard Knocks episode, because you were the star of the show in a hilarious and authentic way. And he was asked about being the star of the show. Take a look at what he had to say in response to the thought of Mike McDaniel being the star of the show. This was, I don't think he intended it for to be hilarious, but a pretty funny quote. He said, "The idea of me being the star of a show, I reject that to the nth degree, because that's not team." And that shows what Mike McDaniel is all about. So let's show some love to our head ball coach. Type MM in the comments if you love Mike McDaniel. I know I do, that's for sure. And he says he's definitely qualified to lead this team. And I think when it's all said and done, he might even have a case for Coach of the Year. Coming up, we've got more takeaways from Hard Knocks, as well as those news and notes leading into Dolphins-Jets. But first, got to give a shout out to today's presenting sponsor, none other than Prize Picks. I love Prize Picks. I've been telling you about Prize Picks for weeks now. I'm using it all the time. In fact, anytime a game comes on, out comes the phone, pull up the Prize Picks apps, let me check my picks. My girlfriend all the time, "You're on the Prize Picks." I said, hell yeah, I am. I love the Prize Picks, because here's how it works. It's the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. There is no doubt about it. It's very simple. You only have to pick more or less on a player's projected stat line, and that's when the fun begins. So, had some Prize Picks for Thanksgiving, but let's look ahead to our Prize Picks for the Friday game on Black Friday against the New York Jets. Stop me if you've heard this one before. I almost always go with more on Tua's projected passing yardage, and I know the Jets defense are tough, but that doesn't matter. Tua's getting it done. Give me more on the 250.5, and I'm fully confident he's going to get there. And with Raheem Mostert, 75.5, that's not just rushing yards, that's combined rushing and receiving yards, and that's part of Prize Picks' really detailed portfolio and all the different options that they have. And lastly, Tim Boyle. I know I was a little bit mean to you, and I'd like to say I'm sorry, but I'm not that sorry. So I'm picking less on Tim Boyle's projected passing total of 160.5. Now, there's two different ways you can do this. You can go with the flex play, where you only have to get 2 out of the 3 correct, or you can go with the power play, where you're confident in all 3. The power play is going to pay out a little bit better than the flex play. So that's how it works. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. That's prizepicks.com/CLNS. One more time in case you weren't listening, prizepicks.com/CLNS. Don't worry, we're putting that link in the chat as well. We've got a $100 deposit match waiting for you for being a Dolphins fan and being a Dolphins Today subscriber. It's prizepicks.com/CLNS. Now, this next part from the takeaways of the Hard Knocks review. Tua Tagovailoa. We love Tua. I think everybody in and around the Miami Dolphins organization loves Tua, but I think the nation got a chance to see how much he genuinely loves and cares about his teammates. And that was evident in the quarterback room when you had Tua planning the White Elephant Secret Santa Christmas shenanigans, and how excited he was to get his fellow quarterbacks some Christmas presents. They've been planning it for weeks, and he's a big gift guy. So you saw Mike White there, Skylar Thompson, and Tua. I think the 3 of them gel so well, and that was on full display in the Hard Knocks episode. And I think Tua also shows how much he loves and respects his coach, Mike McDaniel. When you check out what he had to say talking about Mike McDaniel, the swagger starts with the head man, and the head man allowing everyone to be themselves. And again, that was on full display in the Hard Knocks episode, and I think that speaks volumes to the type of organization and the type of culture that's being built in Miami right in front of our eyes, and Hard Knocks just allows us that extra access to be able to see it for ourselves. And lastly, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my favorite quote from the episode. Everybody understands an ass whooping. That's right. That was mentioned a couple of times, and I think it just might. I'm not speaking it into existence, but maybe that becomes a battle cry for this Dolphins team. Hey, everybody understands an ass whooping. That's part of the universal language spoken on the football field and on the gridiron. Everybody understands the ass whooping. Christian Wilkins certainly does, as he was handing out ass whoopings last Sunday, and I expect more of the same coming up against the Jets. And the same with the entire defense, because they have been playing at such a high level, and that includes Bradley Chubb and Jaelan Phillips. I think we got a chance to see how they feed off each other in not only in the game, but in practice as well, when you've got that up close and personal footage from the Hard Knocks cameras following around Jaelan Phillips and Bradley Chubb. And remember, before Hard Knocks even started, there was some quotes about some guys not being too excited about having cameras up in their face and it being way too invasive and things of that nature. But our guy Bradley Chubb, you know what? He might have put some of that to bed. He said, I think it's pretty cool that they aren't as invasive that you think, but they give up all kinds of angles to the game we don't see. And that was certainly evident in that game against the Raiders, where the Hard Knocks cameras caught several different things that I certainly didn't see watching the game not once but twice, and then going back and watching the All-22, the Hard Knocks cameras caught things I did not. So, overall, hey, I'll tell you what, I loved it, but being a Dolphins fan, it was easy to love. You got to be honest with me. What do you give the first episode of Hard Knocks grade-wise? A, B, C, D, or F? Let me know in the comments. I think you guys probably already can gather this, but I'll tell you anyways, I give it an A, maybe even an A+, or in the words of Michael Scott, an A++, the highest grade. I certainly enjoyed it and can't wait to continue following it along through this in-season edition of Hard Knocks. Now, want to close it out with some interesting notes to make note of moving forward. Again, the Dolphins with kind of a funky schedule this week as they take on the New York Jets. And I say funky probably because it's never happened before. This is quite literally the first ever Black Friday game in the history of the NFL. So the Dolphins and Jets will be a part of that. So let's take a look at the most recent injury report, because I told you that injury report was lengthy earlier in the week, and with the quick turnaround, you know it's certainly going to continue to change. But as of now, Devon Achane, Teron Armstead, Chase Claypool, Lester Cotton, Tyreek Hill, Rob Hunt, Alec Ingold, Austin Jackson, Rob Jones, I'm okay, guys, don't worry, Raheem Mostert, Durham Smythe, and Braxton Berrios all were at least limited in Wednesday's practice, so we'll continue to keep you updated on that moving forward to Friday's game. And I think it's also important to note that Braxton Berrios was a full participant because, of course, he and Durham Smythe, among others, had to miss that game against the Raiders on Sunday. And with the quick turnaround, you just never know. So, on to the Raiders, now taking on the Jets. And we told you earlier this week about what that Jets team looks like. And after that loss to the Bills, I didn't use this term, other people did, and I'm going to go ahead and get on this same bandwagon that the Jets have hit rock bottom, and that's when you know Tim Boyle is your starting quarterback. So, again, that sounds disrespectful. It was. I'm sorry. Apologies. But it is what it is. 18 career appearances dating all the way back to 2019. And Tim Boyle is an NFC North guy. Look at the teams he's played for. Green Bay, Detroit, and Chicago before playing for the Jets. Career stats, 9 interceptions compared to the 3 touchdowns. Not great, but hey, this Dolphins defense needs to show no mercy. And as I've mentioned earlier, since Jalen Ramsey has been back on the Dolphins defense, he has implemented a whole new level of play in all aspects, but especially in forcing turnovers. The Dolphins have forced 6 turnovers in 3 games with Jalen Ramsey on the field, and 6 total turnovers in 7 games prior to Ramsey suiting it up for the Dolphins. So I want to call my shot a little bit here. I expect big things from this Dolphins defense on the Black Friday game against the Jets. And speaking of defense, I will give the Jets credit. Their defense can play. They're allowing 20.4 points per game, 11th overall in total defense, but they're coming off their worst game of the season against Buffalo when they allowed 32 points. So you know they're going to be mad. They're going to want to get back to playing the way they're capable of and try to prove a point, a game that's not nationally televised with it being on Amazon Prime, but a standalone game, if you will. The whole nation's going to be watching. First ever Black Friday game. You know this Jets defense is going to want to take it to the Dolphins offense. But what an opportunity for Tua and the offense to bounce back for the Miami Dolphins and bounce back from that 3-turnover performance on Sunday against the Raiders. So I know I'm looking forward to it. I hope you're looking forward to it. Buckle up. It's going to be a hell of a ride, as it always is, because you know we got a watch party, and we're going to get loud, we're going to get rowdy, we're going to have some fun, and if you can't be at, not Hard Rock Stadium, because they're on the road, I almost said Hard Rock Stadium, if you can't be in New York at MetLife Stadium, you should join us for our watch party, because it is a ton of fun, the best way to bring in Miami Dolphins football and make history with us. First ever game in the National Football League on Black Friday. We're going to have an awesome giveaway as well. Shout out producer Smitty in the house today. He'll be with us on Black Friday as well, coming in from the bullpen, and that's what it's all about. Can't wait for that. It'll be a good time. So set your calendar, set your alarm, tell Siri, whoever you need to remind you. You got to set a reminder in Slack or whatever it is. Join us for our watch party. We'll be on the air an hour before kickoff. So that's going to do it for me. Thanks so much for joining us on this Thanksgiving holiday. Happy Thanksgiving to each and every one of you out there. Love you guys, and we'll see you for the watch party on Dolphins Today.